Welcome back to the Temptress build. Surprise, surprise, I'm working on some more planking. This time we're pressing on with layer 2, getting layer 2 completed on the bottom, which is a whole host of plank fitting and vacuum bagging. Then we're pressing on to layer 2 of the sides, getting those fit all the way down the port side and then bonded into place. I've got some extra help in this video as well. My wife Sasha is learning how to mix epoxy and chipping in with the build. So keep your eyes peeled for her first YouTube appearance. I'm a boat builder from the Cotswolds in the UK, and I'm building a boat called Temptress, designed by Michelle Berrier and kitted by myself to be built utilising the latest in CAD design, CNC cutting and modern epoxy wood construction. So I'm picking up where I left off with the bottom planking. If you remember from a couple of episodes back, I've vacuum bagged this section of bottom planking and then sort of diverted to getting the sides done so that I could get them to meet properly up at the bow. So I'm getting back to where I was. This, I've now filled all of this, epoxy coated it and peel plied it, so we've got a good texture here to bond to now with the rest of the bottom planking. What I've done is I've just dressed up this edge here, because you get a little bit of squeeze out of the epoxy and stuff, so I've just squared that back off with a scraper. So a little bit of heat for the excess epoxy, and then I'm just coming down like this along there and along the edge of the plank, just to give me a really nice crisp edge to knit the next plank into. So next job is to get a load of planks cut and do some more of this section. Probably going to do, what did I do there? 2, 4, 6, 8. I think I'll do 8 planks at a time because it's manageable when I'm working on my own. So I'll get another 8 planks done. So this is setup version 2 of the planking. Changed a few things since I did that segment. One of the things Andrew told me about was to put a piece of tape down before the bagging film tape, because it leaves a bit of a kind of sticky mark that will have to be got out. So I'm trying that with this. We've got masking tape down first, which will allow me to remove that tape more easily without leaving anything behind. I've done more of a fitting of the planks. With these I just kind of pre-cut a stack of them, but that section of the boat's pretty straight and pretty uniform, so there wasn't much to do. With these I've actually kind of done a better dry fit, and I've marked the location of each one. Obviously the bevel is also kind of starting to roll now as we come up forward, and the length of the plank changes, so I spent a little bit more time with that. 2 screws at either end with washers just to pin it in place, and the vacuum bag will do the rest in pulling these planks down. So that's what we've got. Same thing with the bag, set up over the back and rolled out the way, ready to go. I've pre-done pleats all the way around, one at the top, one either side, and I'll do one at the bottom as I close the bag up wherever it's needed. So I'll back those off, I'll get it all glued up, and we'll glue down the next section.
bottom.
So side 1 is complete. Side 2 of the bottom is fully dry fit, and I'm about to start getting this vacuum bagged in place. Just thought this was a good little thing to show you guys. So this is the section I vacuum bagged for the first video, and then I had these 3 planks left to do. Now I had to finish them off before I could get onto this side, and it wasn't really worth me setting up a vacuum bag just for these 3 little planks. So what you can see here is how I've done this, and this is basically how you would have to do this planking if you weren't vacuum bagging. This is an indication of roughly what your fixings would need to be. Probably if I was doing it this way without vacuum bagging, I would have transposed all the lines through to the second layer. This is just a plank that didn't get used on the first layer, which is why this is here. But that would then allow you to put bigger screws into the stringers, which is actually what this is anyway. These are just short screws that won't puncture through the inner layer of planking, but they're just enough to pull that plank down. So you know, just thought I'd give you an interesting insight into that's the sort of volume of fixings that you would need in each plank if you weren't vacuum bagging, and of course they puncture through both layers, and I will make sure that these get filled adequately. But when we're vacuum bagging, all we need is 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, and the bag does the rest. So little insight, I'll get all those pulled out and then we'll start doing a section here. So I'll show you the setup just quickly before this epoxy kicks. So I've got all the planks off and rolled it out with unthickened epoxy, so coated all the absorbent surfaces with that. Then this is the setup on the boat. So much the same bagging situation as last time. I've gone with the masking tape, then put the bagging film on. I will just show you what I've done here. So if you remember from the side planking, we go with a start plank, and that stays in place as we take all of this planking off and then put it back on when we bond up. And the start plank just helps to keep us registered so that all of these planks go back in exactly the same place, and therefore all the fitment matches what we've done. I've done the same thing here. So this is my start plank. So you can see what I've done is I've taken one plank this direction out so that I can run my bag up into there. This plank probably actually won't get glued on. I could glue it on, but after all the rest of them. So that stays there as my alignment reference. So I'll glue up all this area, I'll butt the next plank up to this one, and I'll work back that way, and we'll chuck the bag over and vacuum it down. So that's the way I've done that in this configuration. And let's get some glue mixed and get on with it.
We'll just start going in.
Yep.
So I assumed that was the way it had to be. Just cut that bit out.
scrape around as well, and you can get all that dry stuff off the edge.
During a big glue up, it's really helpful for Dan to have an extra pair of hands just to take the pressure off. So I've been learning how to mix epoxy. In this case, I'm mixing Wessex 105 epoxy with the 205 fast hardener. I'm then mixing it with the 403 microfibers to get a porridge-like consistency. I've also been learning how to do other types of epoxy, including unthickened, and later in the video I've been mixing with 406 colloidal silica for the side planks. Now the planks are glued on, Dan's moving on to vacuum bagging. I've taken over camera duties here. Because this is quite a time pressured job, it's really difficult for Dan to get those close-up shots in order to show you guys exactly what's going on.
So in previous videos, you've seen me scribing the edges of planks to mark them up so that one edge fits perfectly against the next. On the second layer, this isn't going to be seen. We've got a little bit more of a tolerance here for this to be filled with glue. Now, as I've mentioned before, that tolerance is going to depend on who you are and what your standards of work are. But this has given me a little bit more freedom to speed things up a bit. So what I'm doing here is just doing this visually instead of actually using the little scribing tool. This may vary a little bit based on what the plank's doing, but up in the forward end of the boat here, what you tend to just have is a subtle curve throughout the middle of the plank. So I put a mark on the plank that indicates the center of that curve. I then start to do passes with the hand plane that get progressively further away from that mark. Lots of short little passes right in the middle create the bottom of that sort of dished curve, and then as we sweep further out, it turns it into a nice steady curve overall. I can then offer up the plank again and see how that fits. This is a lot quicker because it doesn't involve taking the plank over to the bench. I can just do this on the fly on the side of the boat. Sometimes it might take 2 or 3 offerings of the plank up to the next one just to get the fit perfect, but this is a lot quicker than doing it the way that I've showed in the previous layers, where we need to be really tight fitting for layer 1. Now, tolerance wise, I'm talking about gaps of less than 1 millimeter here, so I'm still getting things pretty close, but this is a much quicker method. Here's another example of that manual method that I'm doing. I'm putting a tick mark in the center of the plank that gives me the distance that I need to dish that curve out by, and then I'm just using my hand to scribe that line down the outside and feather it out, so I've got indications of where that dish needs to start and stop and where it's at its peak. This gives me a bit of a better reference to follow. I'm doing all of this visually because that gets me perfectly close enough for what I'm doing here. So if you push it from the bottom, see that all like flex out. And then if you get under a corner,
yeah, here we go.
just pick up a lot more. Alright. So I've just done the first 3 planks and we're still kind of deciding on which system is going to be 100% best for gluing up this side, and I'll just show you what we're looking at. So we're currently doing a rolled coat on the planks and on the hull sides as well, and this is what I'm looking for really. You guys will know that I'm always on about squeeze out, so that bead along there is perfect. That tells me there's enough glue in behind the plank, but then that also gives me edge bonding of the next plank when it comes in. What I'm not so happy about is this. You see that little black line there? That's just a slight void, and as I push that in, you can see that closes up. Now that's the sort of thing that a vacuum bag is really good at stopping, because that even pressure and force all the way over the plank just slightly presses that down and you get really good full contact, which is really what I want. Made the decision not to vacuum bag the sides because we've got so many fixing points all the way down here, but now seeing that, you can see we're just slightly starved of glue on that bit, which is not really my preference. It's very fine, but I'd sooner see full consolidation of that glue if I could. So what I'm going to try for the next plank is just a little bit heavier on glue application. I'm going to go from a roller to a notched spreader here and put slightly thicker application of glue and see if we start to get a full bead down those edges. You know, we've still got contact of the glue there, we've just not got full pull down and squeeze out. So I'll try that on the next plank. We'll see if that method works. If it doesn't, I may look at going over to vacuum bagging, but to be honest, setting up the bag on this side is tricky and very involved. It's doable, but it's not my first choice. So let's see how we go on the next plank. So just done the next handful of planks, and I've gone over to using the fine tooth on the notch spreader for this, which is much better. You can see immediately with this bead down the edge of that plank that we've got a nice full contact all the way down. So that's what we're going to stick with for the method. We're going to roll on the planks and fine tooth notch spreader on the boat. So this gives us good contact for the next plank that then sits into that. We've got good edge gluing, so we'll press on, get the rest of this bit done. I'll just say a note about this, so I haven't done any fairing on this. The hull sides are so good that it doesn't need it, but what I've just been doing as I go along, obviously I've now transferred my marks through to the top plank, and then each plank as I fit them is aligned with the previous plank plus the screw holes, so we don't need this information anymore. So I'm sanding this off as we go. I'm looking to sand off the bits of epoxy and just take any slight, you know, we got the odd like plank edge there, so I'm just sort of knocking that down with the sander with a 40 grit disc on it as we work through and as we bond up. So onwards.
If you're enjoying these videos and would like to support what we do, we'd love to have you over on Patreon. As well as helping us create more of these projects, our paid Patreon members get access to exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. I'm actually now filming a brand new weekly behind the scenes series that shows the real day-to-day workshop life. It's unpolished moments, extra updates, and everything that doesn't make it into YouTube. If you'd like to join us, just click the link in the description below. We'd love to see you there.
So that's a whole host more planking done. I did warn you guys that you were going to be watching me doing this for some time. It is going to take a while to get all of this planking complete. But it's looking really smart. I'm pleased with how it's going. This glue up method is working really well. And actually the benefit of doing this over a vacuum bag is that it just allows you to steadily progress through the boat throughout the day. With a vacuum bag, you're kind of confined to doing however much you choose to do, and then you're waiting for that to set up. I've done a rough bit of fairing on this forward, just hit this with a belt sander really to start to get it there. One of the things I'm going to do in a video very soon, quite possibly the next one, is to 3D scan the hull. So I'm going to, probably after layer 2 is complete, 3D scan the hull, drop it into CAD, and we'll see just how accurate this boat is in comparison to what it should be. But it's looking smart. I really like the way the shape of that bottom's coming together. Really pleased with this glue up, so that is nice. When we get onto layer 3 planking, things will get a little bit more interesting again, because we're going to start fitting longitudinal planks, which will run this way, and that will be the final finish of the boat. We'll do a third layer of diagonal on the bottom, but up forward here, where the waterline will transition down somewhere around about here, we'll also do longitudinal planks in this area that will match the top sides. So things will get a little bit more varied when we get to layer 3, which isn't too far away. This layer will be mahogany for the bottom, so all the sides. And we're going to put some chine caps on here. So you may be thinking that plywood isn't really ideal for an exposed chine. This is essentially just the core. So what's going to happen is there'll be a mahogany chine cap that will go on there and fit into that, give us the perfect final shape of the chine. So there we go. Hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I will get a video out for you next time when we move on to layer 3 planking. Might be a little wait, but I hope it's worth it. Cheers guys, catch you soon.